Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Adita Karkera, Chief Data Officer for the Government and Public Services practice with Deloitte. We are partnering with CDO Magazine today in a series of interviews of government leaders. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Kshemendra Paul. He's the Chief Data Officer for the Department of Veterans Affairs. Kshemendra, what a pleasure. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Adita. It's a pleasure for me to be here and talking with you and colleagues that would access this through CDO Magazine. So thank you so much.
Welcome. Well, let's get right into it, Kshemendra. I know in the recent years, the role of the CDO has been very well adopted in government. We've seen a rise in the number of CDOs across government, especially in the federal government with the Evidence Act. However, in my day-to-day workings and in my past experience, I've always seen each government CDO's role differs slightly from each office, not just the roles and responsibilities, but also there's a slight difference on where that CDO or that office is positioned in the wider organization structure. So I think it would be great if you could start off with a quick background about yourself and maybe touch on your role, responsibilities, and the office and how that's set up for you today, Kshemendra.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That's really good. And it's an astute observation. We have a common framework, the law, the Evidence Act that created the Chief Data Officer position. And there's a lot of guidance from the Office of Management and Budget, the White House. There's a scaffolding of other related laws and policies so that there is commonality. But the way the federal government works, every department, every agency has a different mission. And those departments and agencies have discretion in how they set up and actuate things like a chief data officer position to make sure it's impacting the mission appropriately, it fits in the organization, and things like that. So at the Department of Veterans Affairs, my role is located in the Office of Enterprise Integration. OEI, the Office of Enterprise Integration, runs the internal strategy function for the department, governance, key initiative oversight, and data analytics. So my group has got two major components. One is data dissemination and governance, which is where the Executive Secretariat for the Data Governance Council is, where we do information policy, open data, things like that. The other side is the capstone analytics function for the department, the National Center for Veterans Analysis and Statistics. So there's a data management, data governance component, a data analytics component. And of course, we anchor collaboration transparently, fully participatory across the department and the rest through the Data Governance Council. Now, an interesting kind of thing here in the federal space and broadly is the relationship between the CIO function, the Chief Information Officer function, and the Office of Information and Technology and my role. And I'm clearly the junior partner in that relationship, but the co-chair of our Data Governance Council is our Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary, Mr. Dwayne Beard. So he and I are partners, and again, bringing a whole of enterprise view on data governance, data management, bringing together information technology, information resource management, analytic requirements, data quality into a combined package.
Yeah, you've got a really big portfolio of duties, it sounds like, Kshemendra. You talked about data governance, data analytics, and of course, the open data work that you're doing. But I'm also sensing that there's a lot of collaboration that you slightly touched on with how your Data Governance Council is chaired, allowing for much more enterprise alignment throughout the organization. So very interesting. I want to touch slightly on the fact that you've spent a bit of your career in the private sector. And I'm curious, and I'm sure the audience would be curious, that having played leadership roles in both the public and the private sector, what are some of the similarities or the differences that you have noticed as you pivoted your career through these sectors?
Yeah, thank you. I grew up electrical engineer by training, graduate, undergraduate, systems engineering, electrical engineering. Worked in the innovation business, was in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 90s, was involved in startups and, a lot of very interesting work. I never thought I would be a part of the government, but post 9/11, I felt the call to be a part of something bigger than myself and joined the government, came into the Department of Justice, helping with counterterrorism, law enforcement, information sharing, and then been around information sharing, government operations, data, really for the last 16, 17 years in the government. There's a difference, right? The public service mission is different. It's very attractive, right? The opportunity to work on the biggest problems in the country and the world, that requires a scale of government to build against. The Department of Veterans Affairs is a great example. We're the largest integrated payer provider of healthcare in America, maybe internationally. I think some of the commonality here was, the systems thinking that I was using in the private sector, looking at a product management sensibility in entrepreneurial endeavors translated pretty well into how to think about government transformation and capability delivery. I also, find that there's a lot of pockets of excellence, of innovation across the government. The government drives a lot of innovation in the private sector. I didn't fully realize, how those things were intertwined until I came in the government, in particular when I served in the Office of Management and Budget in the White House, to really understand how the government supports the economy and how the economy leans on the government in certain areas, to really function in a modern society. So it's kind of cool to see that.
Thank you so much for that. And that is about all the time that we have today for chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your perspectives. And for the audience, please continue to visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thank you, Kshemendra.
Thank you, Adita.